Mommy's bleeding. Please help. The bad lady hurt Mommy. The dispatcher's voice crackled through the speaker, calm and professional, despite the terror in the child's words. Okay, sweetie, I need you to tell me your address. Can you do that? Um, Sophie's breath hitched. 1247 Maple Ridge Drive. That's what Mommy taught me. You're doing great, honey. What's your name? Sophie. Sophie Hartley. I'm 6 years old. Rachel could hear her daughter's voice as if from underwater. Everything felt distant, wrong. The ceiling spun above her. Something warm and sticky pooled beneath her head. The corner of the coffee table loomed in her vision, dark wood now painted red. Sophie, is your mommy awake? Can she talk to me? She's making noises. Her eyes are open, but she's not talking right. Sophie's voice broke. Is she gonna die? Please don't let mommy die. The baby's inside her tummy. The ambulance is coming, Sophie. You're being so brave. Can you tell me what happened? The bad lady with yellow hair came to our door. She was talking loud at Mommy. Then she pushed Mommy and Mommy fell down. There's so much red stuff. Rachel tried to speak. Her mouth wouldn't work right. The room tilted. All she could think was, Sophie, my baby, the baby inside me. Please, God, the baby. Is the bad lady still there? No, she ran away when Mommy fell. She said bad words and ran. Good, you're safe. Stay on the phone with me until help comes, okay? The siren wailed in the distance. Growing closer, closer. Sophie dropped the phone. Rachel heard her daughter's footsteps, then small hands touching her face. Mommy, wake up. Don't cry, Mommy. I'm calling help like you teached me. Then a car door slammed outside. Heavy footsteps on the porch. Vanessa, what did you do? Oh, God, oh, God. Brandon's voice. Her husband. Rachel's brain struggled to process. Brandon was home, but he shouldn't be home. He had meetings, always meetings, with Vanessa. His assistant who just pushed her. His assistant with yellow hair who was now in their house, speaking to him in a voice Rachel had never heard directed at her husband. Intimate, desperate. She wouldn't listen. You said you'd leave her. You promised me. What are you talking about? I never... The paramedics burst through the door. 90 minutes earlier, the afternoon sun streamed through the nursery windows. Rachel folded tiny onesies, each one impossibly small in her hands. 8 months pregnant, and she still couldn't quite believe there would be another baby. Another daughter, the ultrasound had shown. Sophie sat cross-legged on the floor, coloring a picture of a rainbow. Her tongue poked out in concentration, the way it always did when she focused hard on something. Mommy, what should we name the baby? We've talked about this, sweet pea, remember? We're thinking about Lily or Grace. I like both. Can she be Lily Grace? Rachel smiled. Maybe. We'll see when she gets here. In 2 months, their family would be complete. 2 healthy children. A husband who provided everything. A beautiful house in the suburbs. This was the life she'd dreamed of in college. Studying interior design, imagining the home she'd create someday. She'd given up the design business when Sophie was born. Brandon said it made more sense. He earned enough for all of them. She could focus on the children. Be present. Isn't that what every mother wanted? Her back ached. The baby pressed against her ribs. She lowered herself into the rocking chair, hand on her swollen belly. The doorbell rang. Sophie jumped up. I'll get it. Sophie, wait. But her daughter was already running, 6 years old and fast as lightning. Rachel heaved herself up, waddling after her. Moving at 8 months pregnant felt like pushing through water. Everything took twice as long, twice as much effort. Sophie reached the door first, tugging it open. Is your daddy home, sweetie? The woman's voice was smooth, professional. Rachel rounded the corner and stopped. A gorgeous blonde stood on her porch. Designer suit, the kind that cost more than Rachel's entire wardrobe. Expensive leather briefcase. Perfectly manicured red nails. And perfume. Vanilla and jasmine. That perfume. The smell Rachel had been finding on Brandon's shirts for months. The smell she'd convinced herself was air freshener from his new office. The smell that lingered in their bedroom after he came home late from meetings. That instant recognition slammed into her chest. The smell that triggers buried suspicion. The perfume you've been explaining away for months, now standing in front of you in designer heels. Can I help you? Rachel's voice came out steadier than she felt. The woman's eyes traveled from Rachel's face down to her swollen belly, then back up. Something flickered in her expression. Anger? Desperation? We need to talk. Woman to woman. Rachel's hand instinctively moved to protect her stomach. About what? About Brandon. About us. About the lies he's been telling both of us. Sophie tugged on Rachel's maternity dress. Mommy, who is she? Sophie, go upstairs to your room, please. But now. The tone in her mother's voice made Sophie obey without further argument. Her footsteps thundered up the stairs. Rachel turned back to the woman. She knew who this was. She'd always known, hadn't she? In that place, women know things they can't prove. The place where intuition lives. You're Vanessa. So he's mentioned me. Vanessa's smile held no warmth. Did he mention that we've been together for 18 months? Did he mention that he said he'd leave you? The words hit like physical blows. 18 months, a year and a half, since before she got pregnant, since before they'd decided to have another baby, since before all those nights he came home late, kissing her forehead, saying he was too tired. Get out of my house. I'm pregnant too. Vanessa's voice cracked. 3 months. Brandon's the father. He promised to leave you. He promised we'd be together. But then you got pregnant again, and suddenly he's telling me to wait, to be patient. I'm done waiting. The world tilted on its axis. Rachel gripped the door frame. Her heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. The baby kicked, as if sensing her mother's distress. That's not true. You're lying. Am I? Vanessa pulled out her phone, fingers flying across the screen. Here, read them yourself. Every message, every promise, every I love you he sent me while you were home playing housewife. She shoved the phone at Rachel. The screen showed text messages. Dozens of them. Hundreds. Brandon's number. Brandon's words. Can't wait to see you tonight. She's already asleep. This is getting harder. I need to tell her soon. I love you. Be patient. After the baby comes. You're the only one who understands me. Rachel's vision blurred. She couldn't breathe. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be real. He doesn't love you, Vanessa continued. He told me you trapped him with the first pregnancy. He was going to leave, but then you got pregnant again. He's too weak to do it himself, so I'm here to help him. Leave him, let him go. Let him be with someone who actually makes him happy. Get out. Rachel's voice shook. Get out of my house right now. Or what? You'll call your husband? He won't come. He's probably with me every time you think he's in a meeting, every late night, every weekend golf trip. He was with me. Sophie appeared at the top of the stairs, her small face confused and scared. Mommy, why are you yelling? Sophie, go back to your room. Vanessa looked up at Sophie, then back at Rachel. Her expression shifted, hardened. He promised me. He promised. And you just won't let go. This is my home, my family. I don't care what he... The push came so fast, Rachel didn't see it coming. Vanessa's hands against her shoulders, hard, sudden. Rachel's pregnant body, already off balance, tipped backward. Time slowed. She fell. The edge of the coffee table rushed up to meet her. Pain exploded in her skull. The world went red, then gray, then dark around the edges. Sophie's scream pierced the air. Rachel's last conscious thought before everything went fuzzy. My baby. Please, God, not my baby. So, she heard voices as if through water. Sophie's small, brave voice. The 911 dispatcher. Then Brandon's car in the driveway. His footsteps. His voice. Shocked and angry. Vanessa, what did you do? You said you'd leave her. You promised me. I never promised anything. This was just... God, what did you do? She wouldn't listen. We could be together if she'd just accept... Shut up. The ambulance is coming. We need to get our story straight. Rachel's mind caught on those words even as darkness pulled at her. Get our story straight. He was going to lie. Her own husband was going to lie about what happened. The siren grew louder and Rachel felt consciousness slipping away. But one thought burned bright and clear. Sophie saw everything, and Sophie had called for help. The hospital lights were too bright. Everything was too bright. Rachel opened her eyes and immediately closed them again. Her head pounded with each heartbeat, a steady drum of pain behind her left eye. She's waking up. A woman's voice, gentle but professional. Rachel forced her eyes open. A nurse leaned over her, checking the monitors. Rachel's hand flew to her belly. The baby. Is the baby? Your baby is fine, honey. Strong heartbeat. She's a fighter, just like her mama. Relief crashed over her so intensely that tears spilled down her cheeks. She pressed both hands to her stomach, feeling the reassuring flutter of movement inside. Alive. Her baby was alive. You have a pretty bad concussion, the nurse continued. The doctor will want to keep you overnight for observation. But the baby looks good. No distress. A small sound from the corner made Rachel turn her head. The movement sent a spike of pain through her skull, but she didn't care. Sophie sat curled in a hospital chair, her knees pulled up to her chest, her eyes red from crying. Sophie? Her daughter scrambled off the chair and rushed to the bed, careful not to jostle her mother. Mommy, you're awake. I was so scared. I called 911 like you said. Did I do good? Rachel reached for her daughter's hand. Sophie's fingers were so small, so cold. You did perfect, baby. So perfect. The lady said I was brave. You are. You saved Mommy. The door opened and a man in a dark suit entered. He smiled kindly at Sophie, then looked at Rachel. Mrs. Hartley, I'm Detective Marcus Webb. I know this is difficult, but I need to ask you some questions about what happened. Rachel's throat tightened. My daughter, she shouldn't have to. We already spoke with Sophie, very gently, I promise. A child psychologist was present. We recorded her statement. He pulled out a small digital recorder. She was very clear about what she saw. Sophie clutched Rachel's hand tighter. I told them about the yellow hair lady, how she pushed you. That's right, Detective Webb said. Sophie told us everything. The woman arrived at your door. There was an argument. The woman pushed you, and you fell and hit your head on the coffee table. Then the woman left. Shortly after, your husband arrived home. Is that accurate, Miss Hartley? Rachel nodded, then regretted it as pain lanced through her head. Do you know who the woman was? Vanessa Blackwood, my husband's assistant. Detective Webb wrote something in his notebook. And why would his assistant come to your home in the middle of the day? She said, Rachel glanced at Sophie, the moment your own husband gaslights you to authorities while you're bleeding. She said my husband was having an affair with her, that she was pregnant, that he'd promised to leave me. I see, and your husband, where was he when this happened? He wasn't home. He came back after she left. The door burst open again. Brandon rushed in, his face a mask of concern. Rachel, thank God, are you okay? Is the baby? He stopped when he saw Detective Webb. Mr. Hartley, I was just speaking with your wife. Brandon's expression shifted slightly, became more guarded. I came as soon as I heard. This is terrible, just terrible. Sir, can you tell me what you saw when you arrived home? I walked in and found Rachel on the floor. There was blood. Sophie was on the phone with emergency services. It was chaos. And did you see anyone else? A woman leaving the scene? Brandon hesitated, just for a second, but Rachel saw it, the calculation behind his eyes. My assistant, Vanessa, had stopped by to drop off some papers. There was an argument. Rachel's been under a lot of stress with the pregnancy, her hormones. She's been very emotional lately. Things got heated. I'm sure it was just an accident. Rachel stared at her husband, at the man she'd married 9 years ago, the father of her children, and she felt something inside her shift. That's not what happened. Brandon's eyes pleaded with her. Rachel, you hit your head. You're confused. I'm not confused. She attacked me. She pushed me because you've been having an affair with her, and she's angry that you won't leave me. That's ridiculous. Vanessa is my employee, nothing more. You're not thinking clearly. Detective Webb looked between them. Mr. Hartley, your daughter's statement corroborates your wife's version. The woman pushed Mrs. Hartley unprovoked. Sophie is 6 years old. She got scared and confused. Look, can we discuss this later? My wife needs rest. She's been through a trauma. We'll need to speak with Vanessa Blackwood, Detective Webb said. Get her side of the story. Of course, whatever you need, but I really think this is being blown out of proportion. An accident between two women who— Detective, Rachel interrupted. Her voice was steady now, clear. I need you to document everything. The head wound, the fact that I'm 8 months pregnant, everything that woman said before she attacked me. Everything. Brandon's mask slipped, just for a moment. She saw anger flash in his eyes. The moment when you realize your own husband will gaslight you to police to protect himself and his mistress. I'm not crazy, Rachel said. The words came out like a vow. I know what happened, and I'm going to make sure everyone else knows too. A nurse poked her head in. I'm sorry, but Mrs. Hartley needs rest. Only one visitor at a time. Brandon started to protest, but Detective Webb gestured to the door. Mr. Hartley, why don't we step outside and let your wife recover? I have a few more questions for you. Brandon leaned down, tried to kiss Rachel's forehead. She turned her face away. Rachel, please, you're not thinking straight. Get out. Don't do this. Don't make this harder than— Get out. Detective Webb gently guided Brandon from the room. The door closed behind them, and Rachel could hear Brandon's voice in the hallway, smooth and reasonable, explaining to the detective how his wife had been so emotional lately, how the pregnancy had been difficult, how this was all a misunderstanding. The nurse adjusted Rachel's IV. Is there someone else we can call for you? Family? A friend? Mallory Sullivan, Rachel said. She's in my phone contacts. Please. 30 minutes later, Mallory burst through the door. She took one look at Rachel's face and immediately understood that something far worse than a simple accident had happened. Mallory had been Rachel's best friend since their sophomore year of college. She was a pediatric nurse, practical and direct. With no patience for nonsense, she pulled up a chair and took Rachel's hand. Tell me everything. So Rachel did. The perfume, Vanessa's confession about the affair, the attack, Brandon's lies to the police. When she finished, Mallory's jaw was tight with fury. That son of a— She glanced at Sophie, who had climbed back into her chair and was staring at a children's show on the wall-mounted television. How long have you known? I didn't know, I suspected, but I told myself I was being paranoid, that pregnancy was making me emotional and jealous. Did you know? Mallory's voice dropped to a whisper. About them? Mallory looked away. I saw them 3 months ago at a restaurant downtown. They were holding hands across the table, looking at each other the way you look at someone you love. She squeezed Rachel's hand. I'm so sorry I didn't tell you. You were already stressed with the pregnancy and Sophie, and I thought maybe I was wrong. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe— You were protecting me. I was wrong. You deserve to know. You deserve better than all of us protecting you from the truth. Even her best friend had kept secrets. The betrayal layered upon betrayal. But Mallory had come prepared. She pulled a business card from her purse. Patricia Kendrick, best divorce attorney in the state. I called her on the way over. She's expecting your call. I can't think about that right now. My head is splitting and— Rachel, Mallory's voice was firm. He's out there right now telling the police that you're unstable, that this was an accident, that his mistress is just his employee. You need to protect yourself. You need to protect these babies. Rachel looked at Sophie, who had fallen asleep in the chair, exhausted from fear and crying. She thought about the daughter growing inside her, the daughter who would be born in 2 months into whatever world Rachel created for her. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Mallory kissed her forehead. I'll stay the night. I'm not leaving you alone. Later, after Mallory had helped Sophie settle more comfortably, after the nurses had checked Rachel's vitals again, after the room had gone quiet except for the beep of monitors, Rachel lay in the darkness with her hand on her belly. She talked to her unborn daughter in the silence of her mind. I don't know what happens next, little one, but I promise you this. I will keep you safe. I will keep your sister safe, whatever it takes. The baby kicked in response, a flutter against her palm. The 911 system you taught your child in routine had become the thing that saved your life. Rachel had taught Sophie emergency procedures as a game, a silly game they played every few months. What do you do if mommy gets hurt? I call 911 and tell them our address. She never imagined Sophie would actually need to use it. Her daughter had saved her life today. Now Rachel had to make sure both her daughter had a life worth saving for. The hospital night stretched long and uncomfortable. Rachel couldn't sleep despite her exhaustion. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Vanessa's hands pushing her, felt herself falling, heard Sophie scream. The machines beeped steadily. Sophie slept in the chair, wrapped in a blanket the nurses had brought. Mallory dozed in the other chair, her nurse's training allowing her to sleep anywhere, anytime. Rachel stared at the ceiling and let the memories flood through her. 6 months ago, Brandon had started keeping his phone face down on the kitchen counter. Before that, it had always been face up. She'd noticed but hadn't said anything. People did that sometimes, didn't they? It didn't mean anything. 8 months ago, Sophie had mentioned that Daddy's pretty work friend brings him coffee every morning. Rachel had laughed it off. Of course, he had coworkers. There was nothing suspicious about that. 10 months ago, Brandon had joined a gym. He went 3 times a week after work, came home showered and energized. He never lost any weight, never brought home workout clothes to be washed. When Rachel asked to see his gym, he'd always had an excuse. Too crowded. Men's only night. Under renovation. A year ago, he'd started coming home smelling like perfume, vanilla and jasmine. New air freshener in the office, when he'd said. The building manager installed those automatic ones. Pretty strong, right? She'd believed him? Or had she? Or had she just chosen not to see? 14 months ago, their intimacy had changed. He'd pull away when she tried to touch him. Make excuse. Too tired. Too stressed. Work was crazy. When they did make love, he seemed distant, distracted, like he was somewhere else. That's when she'd gotten pregnant with their second daughter. One of those rare nights when he'd seemed present, connected, like the old Brandon she'd married. Had he been thinking about Vanessa even then? 18 months ago, when it apparently started, Brandon had begun working late, 3 nights a week, then 4, then 5. Big projects, he'd explained, building an empire for our family. She'd made him dinner that he reheated at 11 p.m. She'd fallen asleep alone more nights than she could count. She told herself this was what marriage looked like, what partnership looked like. He worked hard so she could stay home with Sophie. This was the deal they'd made. But it wasn't work, it was Vanessa. All those late nights, all those weekend golf trips, all those business dinners he came home from, claiming he'd eaten but smelling like perfume and wine and someone else's skin. The signs had always been there, blinking red lights she'd chosen to ignore because acknowledging them meant her world would fall apart. And now it had. The memories tainted everything. Every family dinner where he'd checked his phone under the table. Every "I love you" that now felt like a lie. Every time he'd made love to his wife while thinking about his mistress. How long had I been the only one who didn't know? Sophie stirred in her chair, whimpering softly, still asleep but troubled. Rachel's heart ached. Her 6-year-old daughter had witnessed her mother being attacked, had made an emergency call with trembling hands, had been brave when she should have been protected from ever needing to be. The door opened quietly. A nurse entered to check vitals. She smiled at Rachel. "How are you feeling, honey?" "My head hurts, but I'm okay." "You're a strong one. That baby of yours is doing great. She's got a good mama." After the nurse left, Rachel breathed in the sterile hospital smell. It mixed with the scent of Sophie's strawberry shampoo from where her daughter's head rested against the chair. The machines beeped their steady rhythm, counting her heartbeat, the baby's heartbeat, the seconds of this new reality she was living. The morning light was just beginning to creep through the blinds when Detective Webb returned. He knocked softly, saw that Rachel was awake. "Mrs. Hartley, I hope I'm not disturbing you. There's something I need you to hear." Mallory woke up immediately, her instincts sharp. Sophie continued sleeping, exhausted beyond anything. Detective Webb closed the door and pulled out his digital recorder. Yesterday, when Sophie called 911, the call lasted 3 minutes and 47 seconds. But the recording continues for another 8 minutes. Sophie thought she'd hung up, but the call was still connected. The phone was on the floor near where you fell. Rachel's pulse quickened. What did it record? "I need you to listen. Before I proceed with this investigation, I need you to hear it." He pressed play. Sophie's voice. "Mommy, wake up. Mommy, please wake up." The sound of her daughter's fear made Rachel's eyes sting with tears, then a car door slamming, running footsteps. Brandon's voice loud and clear. Vanessa, what the hell? Why did you come here? Vanessa's voice crying. You said you'd leave her. You promised. I'm pregnant, Brandon. I'm carrying your baby. And she gets everything. The house, the ring, the life I was supposed to have. I never promised anything. This was just, God, what did you do? She wouldn't have gotten hurt if she'd just listened, if she'd just accepted reality and let you go. Are you insane? She's 8 months pregnant. You could have killed her. You could have killed my baby. Your baby? What about our baby? We need to get our story straight before the cops get here. Silence. The recording crackled. Then Brandon again, calmer. Listen to me. When the police come, you were here dropping off paperwork. Rachel was emotional. You don't know what happened. You left before she fell. You never touched her. Got it? Brandon, do you want to go to jail? Is that what you want? Say you didn't touch her, that she must have fallen after you left. The recording ended. Detective Webb looked at Rachel. Her face had gone white. He knew, she whispered. He was going to help her lie. He was going to let everyone think I was crazy, that I imagined it, that I fell because of pregnancy hormones or clumsiness or, Mrs. Hartley, this recording proves premeditation to obstruct justice. Your husband attempted to help Vanessa Blackwood fabricate a false statement to the police regarding a felony assault. Mallory leaned forward. What does that mean? What are the charges? Assault against Mrs. Hartley, reckless endangerment of an unborn child, lying to investigators, and potentially conspiracy to obstruct justice for your husband. Rachel couldn't breathe. The moment you realized the 911 system saved your life in multiple ways, not just by bringing help, but by recording the truth. My daughter, Rachel said, Sophie saved me twice, once by calling for help, and once because she didn't actually hang up the phone. Your daughter is very brave and very smart. Detective Webb put away his recorder. I wanted you to hear this before I proceed, because things are about to get complicated, Mrs. Hartley. Your husband has money. He'll hire expensive lawyers. This is going to be a fight. Let it be a fight, Rachel said. The words came out stronger than she felt. I'm done pretending. I'm done making excuses. My daughter heard the truth. The recording captured the truth, and I'm going to make sure everyone hears it. After Detective Webb left, Mallory squeezed Rachel's hand. Honey, I called Patricia Kendrick. She's coming by this afternoon before Brandon gets back here with his lawyers. Rachel nodded. She felt numb, detached from her own body, like this was happening to someone else. But it wasn't someone else. It was her. And she had 2 daughters depending on her to be strong enough to handle what came next. Sophie woke up slowly, rubbing her eyes. Mommy, can we go home now? Not yet, sweet pea. The doctors want to make sure Mommy's head is all better first. Will Daddy be here? Rachel's heart broke at the innocent question. Maybe, but you know what? Auntie Mallory's going to stay with us, and we're going to make sure everything is okay. Sophie nodded, but her eyes were troubled, too troubled for a 6-year-old. Mallory distracted her with the television while Rachel closed her eyes, letting the weight of everything settle over her. He was going to lie. Her husband, the man she trusted with her life, with her children's lives, was going to lie to police about his mistress attacking her while she was 8 months pregnant. But Rachel had something he didn't know about. She had the recording, she had the truth, and she had her daughter's voice, innocent and clear, telling exactly what happened. The prison door had been unlocked all along. She just needed her daughter's voice to hear the click. Patricia Kendrick swept into the hospital room like a force of nature. She was 52 years old with silver-streaked dark hair, sharp eyes, and an aura of complete competence. She wore a navy suit that screamed expensive lawyer, and she carried a leather portfolio that probably cost more than Rachel's car payment. Rachel Hartley? Yes. Patricia Kendrick. Mallory called me. Let's talk. She glanced at Sophie, who was coloring in a book Mallory had brought from the gift shop. Mallory, could you take Sophie to the cafeteria for some ice cream? Mallory understood immediately. Come on, sweet pea. Let's get chocolate. Sophie looked at her mother. Is the lady nice? Very nice, Rachel assured her. Go with Auntie Mallory. I'll be right here. After they left, Patricia pulled up a chair and got straight to business. I've handled 300 divorce cases in my 28-year career. I've seen everything. But I'm going to be very direct with you, Rachel. Your daughter just became the most important witness in multiple cases, criminal and civil. Rachel's stomach clenched. She's 6 years old. I know, and we're going to protect her as much as possible. But let's lay out what we're dealing with. Patricia opened her portfolio and pulled out a legal pad. First, the criminal case. Vanessa Blackwood will be charged with assault, reckless endangerment of an unborn child, and lying to investigators. That's the district attorney's case, not ours. You'll be a witness, but you're not the one prosecuting. And Brandon, for helping her lie? That's trickier. Conspiracy to obstruct justice is hard to prove, but that recording gives us leverage. Which brings me to the civil matters. Patricia clicked her pen. Divorce, custody, asset division. This is where we fight. I don't want to fight. I just want my children safe. Honey, you don't get to choose whether there's a fight. Your husband will fight because men like him always do. He'll fight dirty, but here's what works in your favor. Patricia counted on her fingers. 1. You have a recording that proves your husband conspired to lie to police after his mistress attacked you. 2. You're 8 months pregnant with his child and were assaulted in your own home. 3. Your 6-year-old daughter witnessed the attack and bravely called for help. 4. You have evidence of an 18-month affair with an employee. Any judge hearing this will not be sympathetic to him. What about Sophie? I don't want her traumatized more by having to testify. The recording is enough for the criminal case. Sophie gave her statement to police with a child psychologist present. We have that. We won't put her on a witness stand unless absolutely necessary. But Rachel, she's already been traumatized. Now our job is to make sure she's protected going forward. Patricia leaned back. Here's what I need from you. First, I need you to document everything. Every conversation with your husband from this point forward, you record. Your phone has a voice memo app. Use it. Second, I need access to any financial records you can get. Bank statements, credit cards, investment accounts. If he's been hiding money, we need to find it. Third, I need you to tell me everything. Every detail about your marriage, the affair, his behavior. Nothing is too small. I don't know if I can afford. Mallory and I discussed fees. We're going to work out a payment plan. Also, in cases like this, we typically get the court to order your husband to pay your legal fees. He's the one with the money, and he's the one who caused this situation. A knock at the door interrupted them. A nurse poked her head in. Mrs. Hartley, your husband is here with someone. They're asking to see you. Patricia stood. Tell them Mrs. Hartley is with her attorney and will only speak through counsel from now on. Patricia, Rachel started, trust me, you don't speak to him without me present. Not anymore. The door opened wider. Brandon pushed past the nurse, followed by a man in an expensive suit who screamed high-powered lawyer. Brandon's concerned husband mask was back in place. Rachel, please, I need to talk to you. This has all gotten so out of hand. Patricia stepped between Brandon and the bed. Mr. Hartley, I'm Patricia Kendrick, your wife's attorney. All communication will go through me from now on. The other man extended his hand. Clark Morrison, Mr. Hartley's counsel. Ms. Kendrick, surely we can all be reasonable here. This is a family matter that's gotten blown out of proportion. A family matter? Patricia's voice could have cut glass. Your client's mistress attacked his pregnant wife in front of their 6-year-old daughter. Then your client attempted to help the mistress lie to police. That's not a family matter. That's multiple felonies. Brandon's mask cracked. Rachel, you can't actually believe. Don't speak to my client. She's my wife. She's my client, and you're done talking to her without counsel present. Brandon turned his attention to Rachel, his eyes pleading. Rachel, please, think of Sophie. Think of the baby. We can work through this privately. Marriage counseling, whatever you need. Don't destroy our family over a mistake. From victim to fury, the anger that had been building since yesterday suddenly crystallized into something sharp and focused. A mistake? Rachel's voice came out steady, cold. You had an affair for 18 months. You got another woman pregnant, or thought you did. Then you helped her cover up attacking me while I was carrying your child. Which part was the mistake, Brandon? The affair was wrong, I know that, but I never meant for anyone to get hurt. Vanessa showed up uninvited. I didn't know she was coming to the house. This whole thing just spiraled out of control. You told her to lie to the police. I heard the recording. Brandon's face paled. What recording? The 911 call. Sophie didn't hang up. Everything you said to Vanessa was recorded. Clark Morrison's professional mask slipped. Mr. Hartley, we need to speak privately, now. But Brandon wasn't done. His fear was making him desperate, and his desperation was making him mean. You drove me to this, Rachel. You were always so tired, always so focused on Sophie. Then the pregnancy, you let yourself go. You stopped caring about me, about us. What was I supposed to... the moment when your own husband blames you for his choices. Patricia held up a hand. We're done here. Mr. Hartley, you and your counsel need to leave. All further communication goes through me. Rachel, she said leave. Mallory stood in the doorway with Sophie, who clutched her ice cream cup with both hands. And you should be ashamed of yourself, letting your daughter hear you say those things about her mother. Brandon looked at Sophie. For a moment, something like shame crossed his face. Sophie, honey, Daddy didn't mean... Don't talk to her, Rachel said. Don't come near her. Patricia, can he... I'll file for a temporary restraining order within the hour, Patricia said. Mr. Hartley, you'll be notified. Until then, stay away from your wife and daughter. Clark Morrison physically guided Brandon toward the door. Mr. Hartley, we really need to discuss legal strategy. This isn't over, Rachel, Brandon said. You're going to regret... Mr. Hartley, stop talking, now. Clark's voice was sharp with professional alarm. They left. The door closed behind them. Rachel sat in the sudden silence, shaking. Sophie climbed onto the bed, careful of her mother's IV. Mommy, why was Daddy being mean? Sometimes grown-ups say things they don't mean when they're scared and angry. Are you and Daddy getting divorced? Rachel looked at her daughter's serious little face. She could lie. She could say they'd work it out. She could protect Sophie from the truth a little longer. But lies had guided them here. I think so, baby. I think we are. Sophie considered this. Will we still live in our house? Yes, well, I don't know yet, but wherever we live, we'll be together. You and me and your baby sister. We'll be okay. Okay. Sophie took a bite of her melting ice cream. I don't want to see Daddy for a while anyway. He helped the bad lady. The innocent clarity of a child who had seen the truth and couldn't unsee it. After Brandon left, Patricia filed the restraining order and left to begin gathering documentation. Mallory stayed. The nurses came and went. The day blurred into evening. Rachel was released the next morning with instructions to rest and follow up with her obstetrician within 48 hours. Patricia had arranged for a temporary restraining order. Brandon couldn't come to the house. He could have supervised visitation with Sophie through a third party, but only if Sophie wanted to see him. She didn't. Mallory drove them home. Sophie was quiet in the back seat, holding her mother's hand. When they pulled into the driveway, yellow police tape still marked the door. Rachel's breath caught. The tape, the blood, the scene of the crime that was supposed to be her safe home. Inside, someone had cleaned the blood from the floor, but Rachel could still see the stain, a dark shadow on the wood that wouldn't come out. The coffee table corner still showed a chip where her head had hit. She could smell Vanessa's perfume still lingering in the air. Vanilla and jasmine mixed with the chemical smell of cleaning products. Sophie wouldn't go upstairs to her room. She clung to Rachel's side, eyes wide and frightened. Can I sleep with you tonight, Mommy? Of course, baby. But Rachel knew she wouldn't sleep. Not in this house. Not where it had happened. At 2 in the morning, she gave up trying. Sophie finally slept curled against her side. Mallory dozed on the couch downstairs, refusing to leave them alone. Rachel heaved her pregnant body out of bed and waddled downstairs. Her head still ached. The baby moved restlessly inside here, sensing her mother's agitation. She stood in the hallway, looking at the closed door to Brandon's home office. He'd always kept it locked. His private space. She'd never questioned it. She went to his bedside table and opened the drawer. His spare keys lay inside, right where they'd always been. He hid things there, thinking she didn't know, thinking she didn't pay attention. But she'd always known. She'd just never looked. Until now. She took the keys and walked to his office door. Her hands shook as she unlocked it. The door swung open. Moonlight filtered through the blinds, casting shadows across his mahogany desk. The smell of leather and expensive cologne filled the space. This was Brandon's kingdom. The place where he conducted his business empire. The place where he'd conducted his affair. Rachel lowered herself into his leather chair. It creaked under her weight. She opened his laptop. It powered on, requesting a password. She tried their wedding date. Incorrect. She tried Sophie's birthday. The computer unlocked. The irony wasn't lost on her. He'd used their daughter's birthday to protect his secrets. His email account was still open. She stared at the inbox, hundreds of emails. She clicked on the sent folder and searched for Vanessa's name. The results loaded, 847 emails. Rachel clicked on the first one, then the second, then the third. I can't stop thinking about you. Last night was incredible. I've never felt this way before. I hate going home to her. You're all I want. She's pregnant again. I don't know how this happened. I'll leave her after the baby comes, I promise. Meet me at the Grandview Hotel. Room 214, Thursday at 3. I love you. Be patient. Soon we'll be together. She's so needy right now. The pregnancy has made her unbearable. You're the only one who understands me. The only one who sees the real me. Rachel read them all. Every message, every promise, every I love you sent to Vanessa while Rachel was home, pregnant and alone, making dinner for a husband who didn't love her anymore, if he ever had. The messages went back 18 months before they'd decided to have another baby, before she'd gotten pregnant, while she was caring for Sophie and managing their home and believing she was in a partnership. She found pictures, Vanessa in lingerie. Brandon's replies graphic and detailed, plans for weekend getaways, photos from restaurants she'd never been to, bars she'd never heard of, a whole secret life she'd never suspected. One email made her stop breathing. From Brandon Hartley to John Peterson, attorney at law, subject, postnuptial agreement. John, I need to discuss options for a postnuptial agreement. My wife is currently pregnant with our second child. I've been advised that waiting until after the birth gives me more leverage, as I can claim postpartum depression affected her judgment if she contests the terms. I need this done quietly. Call me on my personal cell. He'd been planning to leave her. He'd been preparing for divorce while she was pregnant. While she was growing his daughter inside her body, he was meeting with lawyers to figure out how to take everything from her. Rachel sat in the darkness of her husband's office, 8 months pregnant with his child, and felt something inside her break completely. He wasn't just cheating. He wasn't just lying. He was dismantling their life piece by piece while she carried his baby. She printed everything. Every email, every document, the photos, the hotel receipts, the receipts for jewelry she'd never seen. $80,000 at Cartier. An apartment lease in Vanessa's name that Brandon was paying for. Business account transfers to offshore accounts she'd never heard of. He'd been hiding assets, preparing, planning. The printer hummed in the quiet house, spitting out page after page of evidence. When it finished, Rachel had a stack 3 inches thick. She photographed every page with her phone and emailed them to Patricia Kendrick at 3:30 in the morning with a simple message. I found it all. Meet me tomorrow. Then she carefully returned everything to how it had been, locked the office, and went back upstairs. Sophie still slept, safe and innocent. Rachel lay down next to her daughter, hand on her pregnant belly, and whispered to the baby inside, he wasn't just cheating, he was dismantling our life piece by piece while I grew you. But he doesn't get to win. He doesn't get to take everything and leave us with nothing. I won't let him. The baby kicked hard, as if in agreement. Just before dawn, Mallory found her sitting on the couch, staring at nothing. Rachel, you okay? No, but I will be. The doorbell rang at 8 in the morning. Rachel answered it, still in yesterday's clothes. A woman stood on her porch. Not Vanessa this time. An older woman with Brandon's eyes and his jawline. Diane Hartley, Brandon's mother. Rachel started to close the door, but Diane held up a hand. Please, I'm not here to defend him. I'm here because I heard the 911 recording. How did you? The police released it to the media. It's all over the news. Local millionaire's mistress attacks pregnant wife. They're playing your daughter's voice on every station. Rachel's knees went weak. The whole city had heard Sophie's terrified voice calling for help. I came to say I'm sorry, Diane continued, and to tell you that I know exactly what you're going through, because I lived it for 40 years. She pulled out her phone and played a news clip. Sophie's voice, small and scared. Mommy's bleeding. Please help. Then Brandon's voice. We need to get our story straight. He's just like his father, Diane said quietly. I told myself he was different. I told myself he loved you and Sophie more than his father loved us. I was wrong. Mrs. Hartley, Diane, please. And I'm not here for him. I'm here for you and my granddaughters. She met Rachel's eyes. Don't be me, Rachel. Don't stay silent. Don't protect him. Don't let him do to Sophie what was done to Brandon. Growing up watching his father treat his mother like she didn't matter. The cycle continues if you don't break it. Rachel's throat tightened. He'll fight. He has money and lawyers, and I have money too, more than he knows about. My father left me a trust he couldn't touch. I'll hire you the best lawyers. I'll testify if you need me to. I'll do whatever it takes to make sure you and those babies are protected. When your enemy becomes your ally through shared generational pain. Why would you do that? He's your son. And Sophie is my granddaughter. The baby you're carrying is my granddaughter. I stayed silent and watched my son learn to treat women the way his father treated me. I won't watch him teach that to my granddaughters. After Diane left with promises of financial support and testimony if needed, Rachel went to Sophie's room. Her daughter's tiny shoes lined up by the closet, her stuffed animals arranged on her bed, her drawings on the walls, pictures of their family, all smiling, all together. All lies, it turned out. Rachel sat on the floor and held her daughter's shoes and cried for everything that had been broken, for the family that had never really existed, for the man she'd married who had turned into a stranger, for her daughters who deserved better than this shattered wreck of a life. But crying didn't change anything. So Rachel dried her tears, called Patricia Kendrick, and said, I'm ready to fight. 3 days after the attack, Rachel's phone rang at 7 in the morning. Patricia Kendrick's voice was tight with controlled anger. He filed. Emergency custody motion. I just got the notification. Rachel's blood ran cold. She was feeding Sophie breakfast, watching her daughter push cereal around in her bowl. Sophie hadn't eaten much since the attack. She startled at every sound and wouldn't let Rachel out of her sight. He filed for custody? Of Sophie? Of both girls. He's claiming you're mentally unstable, that pregnancy hormones have made you violent and unpredictable, that he fears for his daughter's safety with you. The room spun. Rachel gripped the kitchen counter. That's insane. He knows what happened. He was going to help Vanessa lie about it. I know, but his lawyer found some obscure precedent, a case from 1993 where a court granted temporary custody to a father when the mother showed signs of violent pregnancy-related psychosis. They're trying to use that. I'm not psychotic. His mistress attacked me. I know that. The judge will know that. But we have to take this seriously. He's playing for keeps now. Court date is in 3 days. 3 days, Rachel looked at her swollen belly, looked at Sophie, who was watching her mother with worried eyes. What do I need to do? We need character witnesses, documentation of your stability, medical records showing you're a fit mother. And Rachel, I need to ask, do you have any history of mental health issues, depression, anxiety, anything he could use? I had postpartum depression after Sophie was born. I saw a therapist for 6 months. I took medication for a year, but that was 6 years ago and I was fine. The therapist signed off saying I'd fully recovered. Get those records. We'll present them ourselves before he can use them against you. Show the judge you sought help, got treatment, and have been stable for years. That's responsible parenting, not instability. After Patricia hung up, Sophie climbed into Rachel's lap. At 6 years old, she was almost too big for this, but Rachel held her anyway, breathing in her strawberry shampoo scent. Mommy, are you sad? A little baby. Because of Daddy? Because things are complicated right now. But we're going to be okay. Is Daddy trying to take me away? Rachel's heart shattered. How did you explain to a 6-year-old that her father was weaponizing the legal system? That he was trying to paint her mother as crazy to gain leverage in a divorce? Daddy's scared. When people are scared, sometimes they do things that don't make sense. But you're safe. I promise you're safe. Sophie nodded, but she didn't look convinced. That night, Sophie wet the bed for the first time in 4 years. She woke up crying, embarrassed and afraid. Rachel cleaned her up, changed the sheets, and held her until she fell back asleep. The next morning, Derlinda Patterson arrived for a home visit. She was a child therapist, middle-aged with kind eyes and a gentle voice. Patricia had arranged it, documentation that Rachel was actively seeking help for Sophie's trauma. Dr. Patterson sat on the floor with Sophie, drawing pictures together. "Can you draw your family for me?" Sophie picked up a crayon and drew carefully. A woman with a round belly, a small girl, a tiny baby in the woman's arms. "Who's this?" "That's Mommy. She's having a baby, a sister for me. Her name is Lily Grace." "That's beautiful. Is anyone else in your family?" Sophie picked up a black crayon. She drew a man on the side of the paper, then scribbled him out completely. Black marks covered his face, his body, everything. "Who's that?" "Daddy, but I don't want him in the picture." Dr. Patterson glanced at Rachel. "Why not, Sophie?" "Because he helped the bad lady. He said they should lie to the police. I heard him. He's a liar." After Sophie went to play in another room, Dr. Patterson spoke quietly with Rachel. "She's processing trauma. The bedwetting, the nightmares, the inability to draw her father. These are all normal reactions to what she witnessed. But Rachel, she's also incredibly resilient. You taught her to call 911. You gave her the tools she needed to save you. That's good parenting. Her father's trying to get custody. He's saying I'm unstable. You're not unstable. You're a pregnant woman who was assaulted in her own home. You're processing trauma while protecting your daughter and preparing for another baby. That's not instability, that's incredible strength." But would a judge see it that way? That afternoon, Detective Webb called. "Mrs. Hartley, we've arrested Vanessa Blackwood. She's been charged with assault, reckless endangerment of an unborn child, and lying to investigators." "Thank God." "There's more. Her lawyer approached us with a deal. She wants to testify against your husband in exchange for a plea agreement on the obstruction charges." Rachel sat down heavily. "Testify about what?" "About the affair. About how your husband knew she was coming to your house that day. She says he told her you'd be alone with Sophie, that he wanted her to talk sense into you about accepting the divorce." The room tilted. "He sent her there? He knew she was coming?" "That's what she claims. She says he didn't expect her to get physical, but he set the stage. He wanted you scared, wanted you compliant, wanted leverage in the divorce negotiations." Rachel's hands shook. He was willing to terrorize his own pregnant wife and daughter for negotiating position? "That's the allegation we're investigating. But Mrs. Hartley, this changes the dynamic considerably. If we can prove conspiracy, that he orchestrated or encouraged the confrontation, the charges against him become much more serious." After the detective hung up, Rachel sat in silence. The man she'd married, the father of her children, he'd been willing to put her and Sophie in danger to gain advantage in a divorce. The moment you realize the man you married is a complete stranger. She'd thought she knew him, thought underneath the affair and the lies, there was still the man she'd fallen in love with, the man who'd proposed on the beach, the man who'd cried when Sophie was born, the man who'd promised to love her forever. But that man had never existed. Or if he had, he was gone now, replaced by someone who valued winning more than his family's safety. The court hearing loomed 3 days away. Patricia had compiled character witnesses, Mallory, other mothers from Sophie's school, Rachel's former clients from her interior design business. Dr. Eleanor Ross, Rachel's obstetrician, would testify about her mental and physical health. Diane Hartley would testify about the family history of abuse and infidelity. But Rachel couldn't shake the fear. What if the judge believed Brandon? What if they took Sophie away? What if her daughter was born into custody battles and supervised visitation in a shattered family? She did what she always did when overwhelmed. At 2 in the morning, unable to sleep, she reorganized Sophie's closet by color, folded tiny shirts into perfect squares, arranged shoes by size, sorted stuffed animals by species. Because if she could control this one small thing, maybe the world wasn't entirely chaos. Maybe some things still made sense. Mallory found her at 3 a.m., sitting on Sophie's floor surrounded by perfectly organized toys. "Honey, you need to sleep." "I can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see him taking her. I see a judge saying I'm unfit. I see Sophie crying for me and I can't reach her." Mallory sat down beside her. "That's not going to happen. You have the recording. You have witnesses. You have the truth on your side." "But he has money and a good lawyer, and people believe men like him. People also believe 6-year-old girls who call 911 to save their mothers." The morning of the custody hearing arrived gray and cold. Rachel dressed carefully in a conservative navy dress that accommodated her 8.5-month pregnant belly. She looked tired, felt tired, but she stood straight and held her head high. Sophie stayed with Mallory. Patterson had advised keeping her away from the courthouse if possible to protect her from further trauma. The courthouse smelled like floor polish and stress. Patricia met Rachel in the hallway, her armor of professional competence firmly in place. "Remember, let me do the talking. Answer questions directly but briefly. Don't let him bait you. He'll try to make you emotional. Stay calm." They entered the courtroom. Brandon sat at the defendant's table with Clark Morrison. He looked good, expensive suit, perfect haircut, concerned expression. The devoted father worried about his daughters. The judge entered. Martha Thornton, 62 years old, with iron gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Let's begin. Mr. Morrison, and this is your motion. Present your case." Clark Morrison stood. "Your Honor, my client is deeply concerned about the welfare of his daughters. Rachel Hartley has demonstrated erratic and violent behavior. The stress of her pregnancy has made her unstable. We have evidence of her history of postpartum depression. We have testimony that she's been increasingly paranoid and aggressive. Our client fears for his 6-year-old daughter's safety and for the safety of the unborn child." He showed edited text messages, Rachel's angry responses to Brandon's affair taken out of context. "I'll destroy you. I'll make sure everyone knows what you are. You'll regret this." He presented testimony from Julian Sawyer, Brandon's business partner, who claimed Rachel had seemed unbalanced at a recent company dinner. She was agitated, aggressive toward Brandon, made a scene in front of clients. Rachel remembered that dinner 2 months ago. She'd been 7 months pregnant, exhausted, and Brandon had been on his phone all evening. She'd asked him to put it away. He'd gotten defensive. They'd argued quietly in the car on the way home. Now it was being presented as the evidence of her instability. When Morrison finished, Patricia stood. She moved with the confidence of someone who'd won hundreds of cases and knew exactly what she was doing. "Your Honor, I'd like to present some context, starting with this." She played the 911 recording, all of it, Sophie's terrified voice calling for help, Brandon and Vanessa's conversation about getting their story straight. The courtroom went silent. Patricia continued. "Rachel Hartley was assaulted by her husband's mistress in her own home while 8 months pregnant. Her 6-year-old daughter witnessed it and had the presence of mind to call emergency services. Far from being unstable, Mrs. Hartley had the foresight to teach her daughter emergency procedures. That's responsible parenting." She presented emails, bank records, proof of the 18-month affair, proof of hidden assets, the jewelry receipts for $80,000 worth of gifts Rachel had never seen, the apartment Brandon had rented for Vanessa. "Mr. Hartley has been systematically lying to his wife, hiding assets, planning a divorce while she was pregnant, and conspiring with his mistress to deceive police after she assaulted his wife. And now he's weaponizing the legal system to claim the victim is unstable." Patricia called Dr. Eleanor Ross to the stand. "Mrs. Hartley is a healthy 32-year-old woman in her 3rd trimester of pregnancy. I've been her physician for 6 years. She has no signs of mental instability. Her previous postpartum depression was mild, properly treated, and fully resolved 6 years ago. Her current behavior is entirely appropriate given the circumstances." She called Dr. Linda Patterson. "Sophie Hartley is processing normal trauma responses after witnessing violence. Her mother immediately sought therapeutic intervention. That's protective parenting, not neglect." She called Diane Hartley to the stand. Brandon's own mother testifying about the family history of affairs and financial abuse. My son is following in his father's footsteps. I stayed silent for 40 years, and I watched what it did to my son, growing up in a house where his father treated his mother as disposable. I won't watch my granddaughters learn that lesson. The courtroom was absolutely silent. Finally, Patricia looked directly at Judge Thornton. Your Honor, the evidence is clear. Rachel Hartley is a stable, loving mother who taught her daughter to call for help in an emergency. That training saved her life. Meanwhile, Mr. Hartley's mistress stands charged with assault, and Mr. Hartley himself is under investigation for conspiracy to obstruct justice. He has no moral standing to claim custody of these children. Judge Thornton reviewed the documents in front of her for what felt like an eternity. Rachel's heart pounded so hard she could hear it. The baby kicked restlessly inside her. Finally, the judge spoke. I've reviewed the evidence. I've listened to a 6-year-old child's desperate attempt to save her mother. And I've seen a pattern of behavior from Mr. Hartley that deeply concerns this court. She looked directly at Brandon. Mr. Hartley, your daughter is a hero. Your wife is a survivor. And you're a cautionary tale about what happens when men value their pride over their family's welfare. She banged her gavel. Custody remains with Rachel Hartley. Mr. Hartley will have supervised visitation only, at a time and place to be determined, assuming Sophie wishes to see him. He will pay full child support, medical expenses, and Mrs. Hartley's legal fees. Restraining order against Vanessa Blackwood remains in effect. This court finds no evidence of instability on Mrs. Hartley's part and considerable evidence of character issues with Mr. Hartley. Dismissed. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Hartley, how do you feel? Rachel stood in front of the microphones, one hand on her pregnant belly, and spoke clearly. My daughter saved my life by calling 911. Now I'm going to make sure her life is worth saving for. When strangers' support means infinitely more than family betrayal. Comments flooded social media, messages of support from women who'd lived through similar betrayals, mothers who taught their own children to call for help, survivors who understood what it meant to rebuild after devastation. Patricia drove Rachel home. In the car, Rachel finally let herself break down completely. Tears streamed down her face, relief, grief, exhaustion, but also determination. Then the baby kicked hard, a sharp jab against Rachel's ribs, like affirmation, like agreement. We won today, Patricia said quietly. But this isn't over. He'll fight the divorce, fight the asset division. It's going to be a long process. I don't care how long it takes. He doesn't get to win. Not anymore. That night, Sophie asked if she had to see Daddy. Only if you want to. Only when you're ready. You're safe. I promise you're safe. I don't want to see him, Sophie said. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Rachel held her daughter and wished she could take all the pain away. But she couldn't. All she could do was make sure Sophie knew she was loved, protected, valued, and all the things Brandon had stopped making Rachel feel years ago. The hardest part isn't surviving. It's forgiving yourself for not leaving sooner. But Rachel was done with regret, done with what-ifs, done with wishing she'd seen the signs earlier. Now she was focused on what came next, and what came next was building a life her daughters could be proud of. 2 days after the custody hearing, Patricia called with news that would shatter everything Rachel thought she understood about the previous weeks. Vanessa's lawyer wants to meet. She has information. What kind of information? The kind that changes everything. Can you come to my office this afternoon? Rachel arranged for Mallory to watch Sophie and drove to Patricia's law firm downtown. Her stomach was in knots. At 34 weeks pregnant now, everything was becoming uncomfortable. Her back ached constantly. The baby seemed to be doing gymnastics against her ribcage. In Patricia's conference room, a woman sat at the table. Not the polished, confident Vanessa from the porch. This version was broken. Her blonde hair hung limp and unwashed. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. Her manicure was chipped. She wore sweatpants and a t-shirt instead of designer suits. Her lawyer, a sharp-faced woman named Jennifer Mills, sat beside her. Mrs. Hartley, thank you for coming. My client has something she needs to tell you. Vanessa couldn't meet Rachel's eyes. I need to confess something about the pregnancy. Her voice was barely a whisper. It was a lie. Rachel went completely still. What? I was never pregnant. I lied to Brandon. I thought if he believed I was carrying his child, he'd finally leave you. But when you got pregnant again, I panicked. The timeline didn't work anymore. I was supposedly 3 months along, but you were already showing at 8 months. Eventually, he'd figure out I was lying. She pulled papers from a folder. Medical records. This is from my gynecologist. I've been on birth control the entire time. No pregnancy, ever. Rachel stared at the documents. Everything even worse than imagined. 1,000 emotions crashed through her at once. Anger, relief, confusion, horror. You lied about being pregnant. You let him believe he'd gotten you pregnant. And you came to my house to, what, force his hand? I thought if I confronted you, you'd give up, walk away, let him go. When you didn't, when you stood there all self-righteous about your marriage and your family, Vanessa's voice cracked. I lost it. I pushed you. I didn't mean for you to hit your head that hard. I just wanted you to feel what I was feeling, desperate, trapped. You could have killed me. You could have killed my baby. I know. Tears streamed down Vanessa's face. I know, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just needed you to understand. He didn't even care enough to verify. I told him I was pregnant, and he just believed it. Didn't ask for proof. Didn't ask to go to a doctor's appointment. Didn't ask to see an ultrasound. He just wanted it to be true so badly that he didn't question it. The revelation hit Rachel like a physical blow. He wanted to believe you were pregnant. He wanted a reason to leave you that wasn't his fault. If I was pregnant, then he had to leave. He had no choice. It took the decision out of his hands. He could tell himself he was doing the right thing, providing for his child. Rachel sat back in her chair. The pieces were clicking into place. But you weren't pregnant, which means he was going to leave me anyway. The pregnancy was just his excuse. I'm not saying this to hurt you more. I'm saying it because you deserve to know the truth. All of it. Brandon never loved me. I was convenient, available, uncomplicated. He liked having two lives, the respectable family man and the affair with his assistant. When I pushed for more, he pulled back. When I lied about the pregnancy, he panicked. And you attacked me because you finally realized he was never going to choose you. Vanessa nodded miserably. I wanted to hate you. I told myself you were the obstacle, that you were keeping him from me. But you weren't. He was never going to leave. He wanted to keep everything, everything, you, me, the family, the affair. When I forced him to choose, he chose himself, not me, not you, himself. After Vanessa and her lawyer left, Rachel sat in Patricia's office trying to process. She was never pregnant. The entire time, it was a lie. Patricia nodded. Which means Brandon's justification for the affair, that he'd gotten Vanessa pregnant and had to take responsibility, was based on a falsehood, and he never bothered to verify it because he wanted the excuse. Rachel felt something shift inside her, not just anger, not just hurt, something colder, clearer. He didn't love either of us. We were both just parts of his life he wanted to keep compartmentalized. When we stopped being convenient, he was willing to discard us both. That's an accurate assessment. And now what? What does this mean legally? It means Vanessa's testimony is going to be devastating for him. She can prove he knew she was coming to your house. She can prove he was planning to leave you. She has texts, emails, recordings of conversations. She documented everything because she thought someday she'd need proof of the relationship. Patricia pulled up documents on her laptop. I filed for divorce, full custody, and equitable division of assets. But with Vanessa's testimony, we can prove adultery, financial misconduct, and conspiracy. That changes the settlement significantly. That evening, Patricia arranged a meeting with Brandon and his lawyer to present Vanessa's confession. They met in a neutral conference room, not Patricia's office. Brandon looked terrible. His perfect facade was cracking. He'd lost weight. His suit hung on him awkwardly. His eyes were bloodshot. When Patricia presented Vanessa's confession, the medical records proving no pregnancy, the statement about him knowing she'd gone to Rachel's house, Brandon's face went white. She lied to me. I thought she was pregnant. I wouldn't have what? Patricia interrupted. Betrayed your wife? You did that for 18 months. Wouldn't have left her? You were planning the divorce before Vanessa claimed to be pregnant. Wouldn't have conspired to obstruct justice? You did that on your own. Clark Morrison looked at his client with barely disguised disgust. Mr. Hartley, we need to talk, privately. She lied to me. Brandon's voice rose. He looked at Rachel, desperate. You have to understand. I thought she was having my baby. I thought I had responsibilities. I never meant for any of this to happen. Rachel watched her husband fall apart and felt nothing. No sympathy, no desire to comfort him. Just cold, clear certainty. You felt trapped. Marriage, mortgage, kids, another baby. You felt like you were drowning. Yes, finally you understand. So you decided to drown your family instead. The words hung in the air. Brandon's mouth opened, closed. He had no response. Clark Morrison stood. We need a recess. Mr. Hartley and I need to confer. They left. Patricia and Rachel sat in silence for several minutes. He's going to offer a settlement, Patricia said. He knows he can't win this, not with Vanessa testifying, not with the recording, not with the evidence of financial misconduct. What kind of settlement? Probably complete capitulation, everything you want. He walks away and you don't pursue criminal charges or public exposure. 30 minutes later, they returned. Brandon looked defeated, hollow. Clark spoke professionally. My client is prepared to offer a generous settlement. Full custody of both children to Mrs. Hartley, the marital home, 60% of assets, child support and alimony. He'll voluntarily relinquish rights to the unborn child if Mrs. Hartley wishes, and he requests that this matter be kept as private as possible. Patricia looked at Rachel. It's your decision. Rachel thought about revenge, about making him pay publicly, about destroying his reputation the way he tried to destroy hers. She thought about Sophie's face when she scribbled her father out of the picture, about the baby growing inside her, who would be born into whatever world Rachel created. She thought about this next 10 years, 20 years, lifetime of court battles and bitterness and anger. I want full custody. I want the house. I want 70% of assets, not 60. I want him to sign away all rights to the baby. She'll never have his name, and I want $500,000 in a trust for Sophie's therapy and education. Brandon started to protest, but Clark cut him off. Agreed. And one more thing. Rachel looked directly at her husband. You stay away from us. You don't contact me except through lawyers. You don't try to see Sophie unless she asks for you. You don't get to waltz back into our lives when you decide you miss being a father. You made your choice. Now you live with it. Rachel, please, don't take my daughters from me. I'm not taking them. You gave them up. You gave us up every time you met Vanessa, every time you lied, every time you chose yourself over your family. This is just making it official. Choosing your children's future peace over your own momentary satisfaction. After they left, Patricia squeezed Rachel's shoulder. You did the right thing. Revenge would feel good for a moment, but this will feel good forever. I know. Are you okay? No, but I will be. 2 weeks later, the divorce papers were signed. Brandon surrendered everything Rachel had asked for. He moved out of state, claiming a job opportunity. Really, he was running from the scandal, from the criminal investigation, from the life he'd destroyed. Sophie asked about him sometimes. Where's Daddy? Daddy had to go away, but he loves you. He just can't be here right now. The lie came easily, easier than the truth that Daddy chose himself over everyone else. Maybe someday Sophie would be old enough to understand the full truth. But for now, Rachel protected her daughter from the worst of it. Some truths could wait. Rachel stood at her bedroom window, hand on her belly, and watched the moving truck take Brandon's things away. The prison door had been unlocked all along. She just needed to find the courage to walk through it. And she was walking through it now, terrified, uncertain, but free. At 37 weeks pregnant, Rachel's water broke at 3 a.m. The sudden gush woke her from restless sleep. For a moment, she lay in the darkness, processing. Then Sophie's panicked voice from the doorway. Mommy, why are you wet? Are you okay? Is the baby coming? Rachel forced calm into her voice. Yes, sweet pea, the baby's coming. Remember how we talked about this? Is it scary? Are you scared? A little, but it's good scary, exciting scary. Can you hand me my phone? Sophie scrambled to get the phone, her 6-year-old hand shaking. The trauma of 2 months ago had left her hyper-vigilant, afraid of emergencies, terrified of losing her mother. Rachel called Mallory. My water broke. Can you come? I'll be there in 10 minutes. Don't panic. I'm not panicking. That was a lie. Rachel was absolutely panicking. She was about to give birth, alone except for a terrified 6-year-old. The father of her baby was gone. Her life was in pieces, and she was supposed to bring a new life into this mess. A contraction hit, sharp, intense. She breathed through it, counting like the Lamaze instructor had taught her. Mommy, you're making noises, like when the bad lady hurt you. This is different, baby. This pain is bringing your sister here. It's good pain, I promise. Sophie climbed onto the bed, careful not to jostle her mother. Can I help? Yes, you can help by being brave. Like you were when you called 911. You're so good at being brave. Mallory arrived with the efficiency of a pediatric nurse who'd seen it all. She helped Rachel change clothes, grabbed the hospital bag that had been packed for weeks, and loaded everyone into the car. In the back seat, Rachel gripped the door handle through contractions. Sophie held her mother's other hand, her small face serious and scared. Remember when we talked about how the baby comes out? Rachel said through gritted teeth. It's happening now, sweetie. My body is helping the baby. Does it hurt? Yes, but it's supposed to. This is how babies are born. Every bump in the road felt like an earthquake. The streetlights flashed by. Sophie's hand gripped tighter with each contraction. They arrived at the hospital at 4 in the morning. Dr. Eleanor Ross was already there, waiting. Rachel, let's get you settled. The labor room was bright and sterile, monitors everywhere, nurses moving efficiently. Rachel changed into a hospital gown, let them check her dilation, allowed them to attach monitors to track the baby's heartbeat. That steady beep, the same sound she'd heard 2 months ago after the attack. The sound that meant her baby was alive, fighting, surviving, 7 centimeters dilated, fast labor. Our Ross checked the monitors. Everything looks good. Baby's heart rate is strong. You're doing great. Sophie sat in a chair, eyes wide. Mallory suggested taking her to the cafeteria, but Sophie refused to leave. I want to stay with Mommy, please. What if something happens? Dr. Linda Patterson, the child therapist, had suggested this. Let Sophie witness the birth if she wanted. Let her see her mother survive something difficult. Let the last memory of Mommy in pain be something beautiful instead of violent. Okay, baby, you can stay. But if it gets scary, Aunt Mallory will take you out. Deal? Deal. The contractions intensified. 8 centimeters. 9. Rachel gripped the bed rails and breathed through the pain. It was different from the head injury. That had been sudden, shocking, terrifying. This was purposeful, productive, pain that meant something. You're so strong, Mommy. Sophie's small voice cut through the haze of labor. I learned it from you, sweet pea. Their daughter Ross checked again. 10 centimeters. Time to push. The next 30 minutes blurred into intensity. Push, breathe, Sophie holding one hand, Mallory holding the other. Dr. Ross coaching her through each contraction. You got this, Mommy, you're doing it. Sophie's encouragement. So earnest and brave. One final push, the burning pressure, the release, a baby's cry filled the room. It's a girl. Ross lifted the tiny squirming infant, a healthy baby girl. They placed her on Rachel's chest, warm, wet, screaming. Perfect. Rachel looked down at her daughter, barely 7 pounds, red-faced and furious at being born, and felt something break open in her chest. Hi, baby girl. Hi, Lily. We've been waiting for you. Sophie leaned over carefully, awestruck. She's so tiny. She has hair. Do you want to touch her? Sophie gently stroked her baby sister's head. Lily's crying quieted, her tiny eyes opened, unfocused but searching. Hi, Lily. I'm your big sister, Sophie. I'm going to protect you forever, Mommy. I promise I'll keep her safe. Rachel's tears mixed with sweat and relief. I know you will, baby. I know. The nurses took Lily to clean her up, weigh her, check her vitals. 7 pounds, 2 ounces, 20 inches long. Perfect APGAR scores. When they brought her back, Rachel held her daughter and looked into her scrunched little face. Lily Grace. Grace because we made it. Lily because she grows from mud into beauty. Mallory cried in the corner. Sophie sat on the bed beside her mother and sister, one hand protectively on the baby's blanket. Is she ours to keep? She's ours to keep. An hour later, after Rachel had been cleaned up and moved to a recovery room, Diane arrived with flowers. She held her new granddaughter and cried, She's beautiful. She's perfect. Do you want to tell Brandon? Rachel asked quietly. Do you want me to? I don't know. Part of me says he should know. Part of me never wants him to know she exists. He gave up his rights. He made his choice. You don't owe him anything. Late that night, after everyone had left, after Sophie had finally fallen asleep curled in the chair beside Rachel's bed, after Lily had nursed and been changed and was sleeping in her bassinet, Rachel lay in the quiet darkness. Her body ached. Her breasts hurt. Everything felt raw and overwhelming. But she'd done it. She'd survived the attack, survived the betrayal, survived the divorce, and now she'd brought her daughter safely into the world. A nurse came to check on them. You're doing great. Both girls are perfect. You should be proud. Rachel looked at her daughters. Sophie, brave and scarred, but healing. Lily, brand new and innocent and full of possibility. I am, she whispered. I really am. The next morning, a package arrived at the hospital, a single card delivered by messenger. Rachel opened it with shaking hands. Brandon's handwriting. Neat, careful. I heard about Lily. I hope she's healthy. I know I have no right, but please tell Sophie I'm sorry. Tell her I love her. Tell her none of this was her fault. I'm signing the papers tomorrow. You were right about everything. I'm sorry I made you prove it. Rachel read it twice. She felt nothing, not anger, not sadness, not even satisfaction. Just emptiness where her husband used to be. She showed the card to Sophie when her daughter woke up. Daddy sent this. He says he's sorry. He says he loves you. Sophie studied the card seriously. Are you still mad at Daddy? I'm sad he couldn't be better, but I'm not mad anymore. Being mad takes energy. I need that energy for you and Lily now. When letting go of anger feels more powerful than holding on to revenge. Sophie nodded like she understood. Maybe she did. Maybe 6-year-olds understood more than anyone gave them credit for. Can I keep the card? Of course, baby. Sophie tucked it carefully into her backpack, not throwing it away, not treasuring it, just keeping it. Evidence that her father had existed, had loved her, had failed her. Someday she'd have to process all of that, but not today. Today was for beginnings. Dr. Ross discharged them on the 3rd day. Mallory drove them home, Rachel in back with both car seats, Sophie beside her, Lily sleeping peacefully. The house felt different, emptier without Brandon's presence, but also lighter. No more tension, no more lace hanging in the air. Rachel set up Lily's bassinet beside her bed. That night, she nursed her daughter in the darkness, listening to Sophie's breathing from the next room, and felt peace settle over her. This was her family now. These 2 girls, this house, this life they would build together. It wasn't the life she'd planned. It wasn't the fairy tale ending she'd imagined when she married Brandon, but it was hers, and that was enough. 3 months after Lily's birth, Rachel stood in her kitchen making coffee with one hand while bouncing a fussy baby with the other. Sophie ate cereal at the table, swinging her legs and chattering about school. And then Madison said her mom could teach us to make slime, but I said my mom was busy with the baby, and that's okay because babies need lots of attention. That's very understanding of you, sweet pea. Lily let out a tremendous burp and immediately stopped fussing. Rachel laughed despite her exhaustion. 3 months of newborn life, the night feedings, the diaper changes, the constant vigilance had left her perpetually tired. But it was a different tired than before. This tired came with purpose. The townhouse was smaller than their old house, 2 bedrooms instead of 4. A galley kitchen instead of the chef's kitchen Brandon had insisted on. A small backyard instead of half an acre. But it was theirs. Bought with the divorce settlement. No memories of betrayal in these walls. No ghost of a marriage haunting the corners. Rachel had restarted her interior design business from home. Small projects at first. A bedroom refresh for a friend. A living room redesign for a colleague from Sophie's school. Then something unexpected happened. A woman named Jennifer called. She'd seen Rachel's story on the news. Heard about the attack, the divorce, the survival. I'm leaving my husband. He's been abusive for 10 years. I finally got the courage to take my kids and go. But the apartment I found, it doesn't feel safe yet. It still feels like a place I'm hiding. Can you help me make it feel like home? Rachel went to see the apartment. Small, dated, but with good bones. She spent 3 hours with Jennifer, listening to her story, understanding what she needed. What makes you feel safe? Rachel asked. Locks, light, being able to see the door from every room, knowing my kids can get to me quickly if they're scared. Rachel designed the space with those needs in mind. Solid locks on every door and window, bright lighting in every corner, an open floor plan that eliminated blind spots, soft, warm colors that felt comforting instead of cold. When Jennifer saw the finished space, she cried, "This is the first place I've felt safe in 10 years. Word spread. Other women called, women leaving abusive relationships, women starting over after divorce, women who needed their homes to be sanctuaries instead of prisons. Rachel understood them. She'd been them. Her design business became about more than aesthetics. It was about creating safe spaces for women who'd survived, about helping them build new lives from the rubble of old ones. She was good at it, really good at it. 6 months after Lily's birth, Rachel sat in her home office reviewing invoices and realized something. She was making more money than she'd ever made before. Not as much as Brandon, but enough. Enough to support her girls, enough to build a life. Sophie was thriving. Still seeing Dr. Patterson weekly, but the nightmares had decreased. She'd stopped wetting the bed. She was drawing pictures that included all three of them, Mommy, Sophie, and Lily, without scribbling anyone out. Brandon had moved to California. He sent child support on time every month. He'd sent birthday presents for Sophie. He never asked to visit. Sophie never asked about him. Maybe that would change someday. Maybe Sophie would want a relationship with her father when she was older. But for now, the distance seemed to be healing for everyone. Lily was an easy baby. She slept reasonably well, smiled early, loved being held by her big sister. Sophie was endlessly patient with her, singing to her, showing her toys, announcing every milestone to Rachel. Mommy, Lily looked at me, like really looked. I think she knows I'm her sister. Rachel watched her daughters together and felt gratitude so intense it hurt. One evening, Mallory came over with wine and takeout after the girls were asleep. You look good, Mallory said, like actually good, not just holding it together good. I feel good. Is that weird? After everything, I actually feel okay. It's not weird. It's healing. I keep waiting for it to fall apart again, for some other shoe to drop. That's trauma. Your brain expecting disaster because disaster happened. But Rachel, you're safe now. You built this. You're allowed to feel good about it. I haven't told you about the interview request, Rachel said carefully. What interview? Local news. They want to do a follow-up story, 6 months after the attack. They want to show how we're doing, how Sophie's doing. They want her to demonstrate how to call 911. What did you say? I said I'd think about it. Patricia thinks it could be good, empowering for Sophie, educational for other kids. But I don't want to exploit what happened. I don't want to be the woman whose mistress attacked her forever. Mallory thought about it. What does Sophie want? She wants to do it. She said she wants to teach other kids how to call for help, so they can be brave like she was. Then do it, not because it's good publicity for your business, not because it makes you look strong. Do it because your daughter wants to use her trauma to help others. That's powerful. So Rachel agreed to the interview. They came to film at the townhouse. Sophie, now 7 years old, sat on the couch with her mother and baby sister. The reporter, a kind woman named Andrea, asked general questions. Sophie, can you tell me what happened the day you called 911? Sophie explained in a clear, matter-of-fact voice. The bad lady pushed my mommy. Mommy fell on and got hurt. I was scared, but I remembered what mommy taught me about emergencies. What did your mommy teach you? Sophie pulled out her toy phone. She taught me to call 911. You say your address first. Then you say what is wrong. Then you stay on the phone until help comes. Like this. She demonstrated, her 7-year-old voice clear and confident. My address is 1247 Maple Ridge Drive. My mommy is hurt. Please send help. Why is it important for kids to know how to do this? Because sometimes grown-ups can't help themselves. Sometimes kids have to be brave. And calling 911 is being brave. The interview aired on a Wednesday evening. Within hours, it was shared thousands of times on social media. Schools called, asking permission to use Sophie's demonstration in safety programs. Parents posted videos of their own children practicing emergency calls. Sophie became a minor celebrity. That's the girl who saved her mom, kids at school would whisper. She handled it with remarkable grace. I just did what mommy taught me. Everyone should know how. The publicity brought more clients to Rachel's design business. Women who'd seen the interview and understood that Rachel wasn't just a designer, she was someone who truly understood what it meant to start over. 8 months after the birth, Diane visited with Christmas presents for the girls. She held Lily and watched Sophie play with her new dolls. You've built something beautiful here, Diane said quietly. It doesn't feel beautiful some days. It feels hard and exhausting and lonely. That's what beautiful looks like when you're building it. The hard work of becoming yourself again. I'm not the same person I was. No, you're better, stronger. You know what you're capable of now. As Christmas approached, Rachel found herself surprisingly content. The first Christmas without Brandon. The first Christmas as a family of 3 instead of 4. They decorated a small tree. Sophie and Rachel baked wine cookies while Lily watched from her bouncer. They drove through neighborhoods looking at lights. On Christmas morning, Sophie opened presents and immediately showed them to Lily. Look, Lily, Santa brought you toys too. Rachel took photos of her daughters. Evidence of this new life, this hard-won peace. That afternoon, her phone buzzed with a message from Brandon. Merry Christmas. I hope the girls are well. I'm thinking about them today. Rachel stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. She didn't owe him updates, didn't owe him closure, didn't owe him anything. He'd made his choices. These were the consequences. Later, as Sophie napped and Lily nursed, Rachel sat in the quiet house and reflected on the past 9 months. She'd been attacked in her home while pregnant, betrayed by her husband, gaslit by his mistress, almost lost custody of her daughter, given birth essentially alone. She'd survived all of it. Not just survived, built something new from the wreckage. The prison door had been unlocked all along. She just needed her daughter's voice to hear the click. Now she was through that door, walking in sunlight, building a life on her own terms. It wasn't easy. Some days she was so tired she could barely function. Some days she cried in the shower while Sophie watched TV and Lily slept. Some days she wondered if she was doing any of this right. But she was doing it, every day, one foot in front of the other, and that was enough. 1 year after the attack on a bright April morning, Rachel received an email that would change everything. Dear Ms. Hartley, my name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm a producer for a national morning show. We're doing a segment on teaching children emergency preparedness. Your daughter's 911 call and your family's story has inspired millions. Would you and Sophie be interested in appearing on our program to demonstrate emergency procedures for children? We understand this may be difficult, given what your family has been through. But we believe Sophie's story could save lives. We'd handle everything with sensitivity and respect your boundaries completely. Rachel read the email 3 times. National television, millions of viewers. Sophie's trauma turned into educational content. Was that exploitation? Or was it empowerment? She called Dr. Patterson, Sophie's therapist. What do you think? Is this too much for her? Let's ask Sophie. She's old enough to have input on how her story is used. If she feels empowered by it, if she wants to teach other children, then it could be very healing. But if she's uncomfortable, then absolutely not. That evening, Rachel sat Sophie down at the kitchen table. Lily, now 13 months old, played on the floor with blocks. Sweet Pea, I need to talk to you about something grown up. A television show wants us to come on and teach other kids how to call 911, like you did when mommy got hurt. But we don't have to do it if you don't want to. This is your story. You get to decide. Sophie thought about it seriously. At 7 years old, she was thoughtful and careful with her words. Would I have to talk about the bad lady? Only if you wanted to. Mostly they want you to show kids how to call for help, how to be brave like you were. Will Lily be there? If you want her to be. Sophie nodded slowly. I think we should do it, because what if some other kid needs to call 911 and doesn't know how? What if I could help them? You're sure? You can change your mind anytime. I'm sure. I want to help. 2 weeks later, they flew to New York. Rachel, Sophie, Lily, and Mallory, who insisted on coming for moral support. It was Sophie's first time on an airplane. She pressed her face against the window, marveling at the clouds. We're flying, Mommy, like birds, Lily babbled in Rachel's arms, grabbing at everything within reach. At 13 months, she was curious and mobile and exhausting. The morning show put them up in a nice hotel. Sophie thought room service was the most magical thing she'd ever experienced. We can have breakfast in bed, like princesses? The morning of the taping, Rachel dressed carefully. A simple blue dress, professional but warm. Sophie wore a pretty pink dress she'd picked out herself. Do I look okay, Mommy? You look beautiful, Sweet Pea, but more importantly, do you feel okay? I'm a little nervous. My tummy feels funny. That's normal. Being nervous just means you care about doing a good job. You're going to be amazing. In the green room backstage, Sophie sat very still, watching the monitors showing the live broadcast. Lily crawled around, supervised by Mallory. Sarah Mitchell, the producer, crouched down to Sophie's level. Hi, Sophie. I'm Sarah. Thank you so much for being here. Are you ready? I think so. You don't have to be perfect. Just be yourself. Tell your story the way you want to tell it. And if you get uncomfortable at any time, you can stop, okay? Okay. They were called to the set. The lights were bright and warm. The hosts, a friendly man and woman, greeted them with genuine warmth. Rachel sat on the couch with Lily in her lap. Sophie sat beside her mother, small hands folded in her lap. The interview began. Sophie, can you tell us what happened the day you called 911? Sophie spoke clearly, her 7-year-old voice steady. A lady came to our house. She was angry at my mommy. She pushed Mommy and Mommy fell down. Mommy hit her head and there was blood. I was really scared. What did you do? I remembered what Mommy taught me. She said if there's ever an emergency, call 911 and tell them our address. So that's what I did. Can you show us how you did it? They'd set up a demonstration with a toy phone. Sophie picked it up and spoke into it. My address is 1247 Maple Ridge Drive. My mommy is hurt. She's bleeding. Please send help. I'm 6 years old. My name is Sophie. Why do you think it's important for other kids to know how to do this? Sophie looked directly at the camera with remarkable composure. Because sometimes grown-ups can't help. Sometimes kids have to be brave. And it's not scary to call 911. The people are really nice. They helped me save my mommy. The female host's eyes were shining with tears. You're incredibly brave, Sophie. Thank you. But I think all kids can be brave if they know what to do. That's why we're here, to teach them. The interview continued. Rachel spoke about the importance of teaching children emergency procedures, about making it a game so kids don't forget, about practicing regularly so it becomes second nature. What would you say to other parents about this? I'd say don't wait for an emergency to teach them. Make it part of your routine. Practice their address. Practice calling for help. Practice staying calm, because you never know when they might need it. And thank God I taught Sophie, because she saved my life that day. And how are you all doing now, a year later? Rachel looked at her daughters, Sophie sitting beside her, confident and whole. Lily babbling happily in her lap, blissfully unaware of the trauma that surrounded her birth. We're doing really well. It's been hard. I won't pretend it hasn't been hard. But we're building a new life, a good life, and I'm so proud of both my girls. After the taping, they stayed for photos. Sophie demonstrated the emergency call again and again for different camera angles, patient and professional. On the flight home, Sophie fell asleep against Rachel's shoulder. Lily dozed in her car seat. Mallory read a magazine across the aisle. Rachel looked out the window at the clouds below and felt something settle in her chest. Pride. Not just in Sophie, though God knew her daughter was remarkable, but in herself. A year ago, she'd been on her back on her living room floor, bleeding, terrified she was going to die. Terrified her baby would die. Now she was flying home from a national television interview, having turned that trauma into something that could help others. The show aired 2 days later. Rachel's phone exploded. Schools requesting her permission to use Sophie's demonstration. Parent groups asking her to speak at meetings. Child safety organizations wanting to partner with her. But the messages that meant the most came from other mothers. My daughter is 8 and has special needs. I never thought she could learn emergency procedures. After watching Sophie, we practiced together. She got it. Thank you. I'm a single mom working 2 jobs. I'm terrified of something happening when I'm not home. I taught my kids to call 911 using your method. They can both do it now. You gave me peace of mind. I'm leaving my abusive husband. My kids witnessed too much. But watching your family rebuild gave me hope that we can survive this too. Rachel read every message, cried over some of them, felt the weight of turning personal tragedy into public purpose. This was the unexpected win, the purpose that emerged from pain. She couldn't undo what had happened, couldn't erase Sophie's trauma or her own, couldn't bring back the innocence her family had lost. But she could make meaning from it. She could help others. She could show other women that survival wasn't just possible, it could be beautiful. 2 months after the national interview, Rachel sat in her home office when an email arrived from the local school district. Ms. Hartley, we'd like to create an emergency preparedness curriculum for elementary schools using Sophie's demonstration as a model. Would you be willing to consult on this project? Rachel stared at the email, then at the photo on her desk. Sophie and Lily laughing together, faces pressed close, pure joy captured in a single frame. She typed her response. Yes, I'd be honored. This was how healing happened. Not by forgetting, not by pretending the bad things never occurred, but by taking the broken pieces and building something new, something that helped others, something that mattered. Sophie's trauma would always be part of her story. Rachel's betrayal would always be part of hers. But neither of those things was the whole story anymore. The whole story included survival, strength, purpose, love. And that story was still being written. Sophie's 18th birthday party was small, but perfect. 6 girls from school running through the backyard of their townhouse. Cupcakes instead of an elaborate cake. Simple decorations, laughter and sunshine and normal childhood joy. Lily, now 23 months old, toddled after the big girls, determined to keep up. Her chubby legs pumped as she chased bubbles, squealing with delight every time one popped. Rachel stood on the porch with coffee, watching her daughters play. Mallory, Patricia, Diane, and a few other mothers from Sophie's school sat in lawn chairs, chatting easily. This was her village, not the family she'd been born into or married into, the family she'd built from ashes. Present time, Sophie called us. The girls gathered around the picnic table. Sophie opened gifts with genuine appreciation, an art set, books, a new backpack covered in stars. She held each one up to show Lily, who clapped enthusiastically. When the other families left, when the decorations were taken down and the leftover cupcakes put away, Sophie sat on the porch steps with her mother. Was it a good birthday, Sweet Pea? The best birthday ever. Better than the party at Funland last year? Sophie thought about it. Last year, before everything fell apart. The big party with 30 kids in a bounce house and Brandon showing up late, phone in hand, distracted even on his daughter's birthday. Different. This one felt more real. Rachel's heart ached with pride. Her daughter understood something adults struggled to grasp, that smaller and more real was often better than bigger and hollow. I'm glad, baby. Mommy, can I ask you something grown up? Of course. Do you think Daddy is happy? The question caught Rachel off guard. Sophie hadn't asked about Brandon in months. I don't know, Sweet Pea. Why do you ask? Because I want to be happy. And I want Lily to be happy. And I want you to be happy. And I think maybe Daddy couldn't be happy with us. So maybe he's happy somewhere else now. Rachel looked at her daughter, 8 years old and somehow wise beyond her years. That's a very mature way to think about it. Do you hate Daddy? No, I'm not angry anymore. Being angry takes too much energy, and I need that energy for you and Lily. Do you miss him? Rachel considered the question honestly. I miss who I thought he was, but that person maybe never existed. Or if he did, he changed into someone else. Does that make sense? Sophie nodded. Like how I used to have an imaginary friend? I missed her when she went away, but she wasn't real anyway. Exactly like that. They sat in comfortable silence, watching Lily chase a butterfly across the lawn. Mommy, do you think you'll ever get married again? I don't know. Maybe someday. But right now, I'm happy with just us. You and me and Lily. We're a pretty good team. We're the best team. Sophie leaned against her mother's shoulder. Inside, Rachel's phone buzzed. She glanced at it. An email from the school district. The emergency preparedness curriculum is complete. We're implementing it in all elementary schools starting this fall. Sophie's demonstration will be shown to over 50,000 students. You've helped create something that will save lives. Thank you. Rachel showed Sophie the email. Look at this. Remember when we did that television show and then worked with the schools? Yeah. They're going to teach your method to 50,000 kids. That's 50,000 children who will know how to call for help because of you. Sophie's eyes went wide. 50,000? 50,000. That's a lot of kids. That's a lot of kids who might save their moms someday, or their brothers or sisters or grandparents, because of what you taught them. Sophie processed this. So the bad thing that happened, it's helping people? Yes. That's how we take bad things and make them matter. We use them to help others. That evening, after the girls were in bed, Rachel sat on her porch with tea. The neighborhood was quiet. Crickets chirped. A gentle breeze carried the scent of jasmine from someone's garden. Not vanilla and jasmine, just jasmine. The smell no longer made her stomach clench. She thought about the past year in Abisi, everything she'd survived, everything she'd lost, everything she'd gained. She'd lost her marriage, her financial security, her belief that life followed a predictable path. But she'd gained something more valuable, herself. She'd discovered strength she didn't know she had built a business from nothing, had raised two daughters essentially alone and watched them thrive, had turned personal tragedy into public purpose. She'd stopped apologizing for taking up space, stopped making herself small to accommodate others, stopped pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. She'd learned to set boundaries, but to ask for help, to let people see her struggle without shame. She'd learned that falling down wasn't failure. Getting up was victory. And sometimes the best revenge was simply building a life so full of love that those who hurt you are making irrelevant. Rachel's phone buzzed one more time. A text from a client. Thank you for making my house feel safe. You understood exactly what I needed because you know exactly what I survived. Rachel smiled and typed back. That's what survivors do. We help each other build new lives. Inside, Lily cried out in her sleep. Rachel went to her, picked up her baby girl, rocked her back to calm. Shh, baby. Mama's here. You're safe. We're all safe. Lily settled against her mother's chest, thumb in her mouth, breath evening out. Rachel carried her back to the crib, tucked her in, and stood watching her daughters sleep. Sophie in her twin bed, Lily in her crib, both peaceful and whole. This was her kingdom. This small townhouse with its secondhand furniture and cluttered kitchen and walls covered in children's artwork. This was worth more than the big house with the chef's kitchen and the marriage built on lies. This was real. She thought about the woman she'd been 2 years ago, the woman who'd ignored the perfume and the late nights and the distance, the woman who'd convinced herself that partnership meant sacrifice, the woman who'd made herself invisible to keep the peace. That woman was gone. In her place was someone who'd been forged in fire, tested, broken, rebuilt, someone who knew her worth, someone who wouldn't settle for less than she deserved, someone who understood that the prison door had been unlocked all along. She just needed her daughter's voice to hear the click. And once she'd heard it, once she'd walked through that door into sunlight and freedom, there was no going back. Rachel stood at her bedroom window and looked out at the quiet street. The moon hung full and bright, stars scattered across the sky. Somewhere in California, Brandon was living his life. Dating, probably. Working. Pretending he'd never had the family he'd destroyed. Let him. She didn't waste energy on anger anymore. Didn't wish him ill. Didn't wish him anything at all. He'd become what he'd always been. Irrelevant to her happiness. Her happiness came from the small moments. Sophie's laughter, Lily's first words, morning coffee in the quiet before the girls woke, client emails thanking her for making their houses feel safe, Mallory's weekly visits, Diane's grandmother love for both girls, the satisfaction of building something meaningful from nothing. These were the things that mattered. Not the big house, not the millionaire husband, not the perfect family image they presented to the world. Just this. Just love and safety and purpose and healing. Just survival turning into strength. Just breaking, turning into becoming. Rachel looked at the photo on her nightstand. Recent. She'd taken it last week. Sophie and Lily on the couch. Sophie reading a book to her little sister. Both faces glowing with concentration and affection. This was her legacy. Not the life that fell apart, but the life she built from the pieces. She finally understood what strength actually meant. Not the absence of breaking, but the willingness to break completely. Then choose, piece by piece, breath by breath, day by day, to rebuild yourself into someone even you didn't know you could become. The 911 call had ended, but the life it saved, that was just beginning. 5 years later, Rachel stood in the back of a conference room, listening to Sophie, now 12 years old, speak to a crowd of 200 elementary school teachers. When I was 6, I saved my mom's life by calling 911. I was scared, but my mom had taught me what to do, and that made all the difference. Sophie clicked through slides showing emergency preparedness techniques. She was poised, confident, and passionate about child safety education. Lily, now 6 herself, sat next to Rachel, coloring in a workbook. "That's my sister," she whispered proudly to the woman next to her. After Sophie's presentation, teachers lined up to thank her, to tell her that her curriculum had been implemented in 42 states, that countless children had used her methods to save family members. Rachel watched her daughter, this remarkable young woman who'd grown from trauma into purpose, and felt overwhelming pride. That evening over pizza, Sophie asked, "Mom, do you think we should reach out to Dad?" Rachel's hand paused mid-reach for a slice. "Why do you ask?" "I don't know. I'm not mad anymore. And Lily should probably know him, right? He's her father, even if he doesn't act like it." "That's your choice, sweet pea. Both of yours. I won't stop you, but I also won't force it. He'd have to prove himself, show up consistently, be who you need him to be." Sophie nodded. "I'll think about it, but not yet. Maybe when I'm older." Lily piped up, "I don't need a daddy. I have you and Sophie." Rachel kissed her youngest daughter's head. "You have us. Always." Later, tucking Lily into bed, Rachel marveled at this child born from chaos who'd only ever known peace, who had never witnessed violence or betrayal, who grew up in a home filled with love and safety and honest communication. This was the victory, not revenge, not making Brandon suffer, but raising daughters who knew their worth, who understood boundaries, who would never accept being made invisible. As Rachel prepared for bed, she passed to the mirror in her bathroom and paused. The woman looking back was 40 years old, lines around her eyes, gray threads in her hair, tired, real, beautiful in ways that had nothing to do with youth or perfection. This woman had been attacked while pregnant, had given birth essentially alone, had rebuilt her life from ashes, had turned trauma into purpose, had raised 2 incredible daughters, had created a business helping other survivors. This woman was enough, more than enough. She was everything she needed to be. Rachel smiled at her reflection and whispered the words that had carried her through the hardest moments. "The prison door was unlocked all along. I just needed to find the courage to walk through it." She'd walked through that door 5 years ago, and she'd never looked back.